Welcome everybody to our latest Inner Circle live event. We are proud to be here with Kira Turner, who's one of my favorite people to talk to in the market because she is one of the most interesting. So let me tell you a little bit about Kira. So Kira is a full-time professional trader out of Austin, Texas, where she lives with her 3 children and 2 dogs, I believe. So she was a pro trader in the 90s. She traded at Cornerstone Trading from 1994 to 2001. Then she moved into real estate investing and she came back to trading in 2018. One of the really interesting things about Kira is she has a lot of experience in what some would consider high-risk activities, namely rodeos and skydiving, especially rodeos. Now, I did a little research before we came in here, and turns out rodeos are pretty dangerous, about 20 times, over 20 times more dangerous than football in terms of the risk of catastrophic injury. And so your risk of getting injured during rodeos, it's 1 out of every 32 times you get up there. So I think this is going to be a really interesting conversation about developing nerves for trading. So Kira, welcome and thank you for joining us.
Thank you. It's good to be here. And I never would have realized that rodeos were so dangerous. But that's a very interesting statistic.
Well, okay. So then let's relate to that. Would you have done it if you'd known it was so dangerous in the first place?
Well, probably, because when you're young, you think you're bulletproof. And so I never thought I would get hurt really doing anything. Yeah, I got a couple of concussions, I can say. I've had a couple of broken bones, so you can get hurt, but you never think that when you're a kid.
Okay, so all right, so I think that's going to bring us to a different kind of starting point than we normally have on these types of things, because we're talking about, oh, what do you trade, stocks or options or forex or whatever. But I want to talk a little bit about like the type of person you are. So how would you describe your own personality?
So I would describe myself as a glass half full kind of person. So I'm always looking for the bright side, and I'm pretty easygoing, but I'm very driven as far as making changes. So if I see something I don't like, in myself or in my house or whatever, I think, okay, what are the steps I need to take to change that? And I'll just be on a path toward achieving my goal. And that's been pretty consistent throughout my life. If I decide I want something, I figure out how I need to get there, and then I head that direction.
Okay, so how does that relate to your trading and how you manage risk on a day-to-day basis? So are you saying you have little attachment to what's in front of you?
Well, I don't know if I would say that, but then again, sometimes it's good not to have too much attachment. I do spend some time. I mean, like today was a really hard day. In fact, you're probably interviewing me on one of the hardest trading days of the year. I mean, it was tough. And what I will do this evening is probably take a long walk and really think about what I did today, what I could have done better. If there were trades that I took too much risk on or should have taken more risk on, and that kind of thing. So I'll just kind of replay today and focus on how to make it better.
Okay, so what do you give me an example of of just like one thing you did today that maybe you think I could have done that better, I could have gotten out earlier,
Okay.
Whatever it is.
At one point I got short the futures and the market was selling off, and
see that it's hard.
Slow downtrend. And I didn't take profit when I had it. I had about 100 points of profit. And I thought we would move up a little bit and then just continue our nice slow downtrend. And we're just so oversold that didn't happen. So I ended up giving back a fair amount of my profit just to try to stay in the trade, because on trend days, I like to get in and just keep moving my stop. And just today wasn't the day for that. So I should have been more careful and taken profit.
Okay, so how does this compare to, I mean, at least how does your mindset compare to a day when it's straight up and everything's good and the trades are coming easy? So like, how do you feel on a day like today versus a day where things feel relatively easy?
Well, a day like today, I walked in. So yesterday, if you were in the market, we've had a number of red days, a number of down days, and then yesterday we finally had a relief rally, and we closed pretty strong at the end of the day. And really, almost all the traders in my room thought we would have some continuation. And so I went home long, quite, a fair amount of positions, expecting at least a gap close to where we closed. I did not expect to be down a couple hundred points today. So I, started trying to do damage control basically. And so that's not a position I'm in very often. That's a pretty rare thing for me. I mean, maybe on one trade, but it was pretty much everything this morning was against me. So I have to shift my thinking and think, okay, I've got to clear out the positions that I'm in and then look for what can make me money. That's much different than walking in and saying, oh, I'm up in this and I'm up in that, and I'll just let it keep going. Because again, if I can get in something that's trending, I love to just let it keep moving my direction and gradually taking some profit off. But that was not what we got today at all.
Yeah, today was pretty brutal. Like we're seeing it all across everywhere. Everything's getting destroyed. Okay, but when you're I want to compare this to Rodeos specifically, because
Okay.
like, what is the mix of calm, fear, and excitement? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, when you start a trading day versus like when you're about to get on a 1,200-pound horse that could kick you in the head or something. So like, how do those emotions mix for you, like before you get started?
Well, that's interesting. I guess in both cases it's a performance, right? So you've got a certain amount of time you need to do something, and it's so psychological in both cases. You've got to be mentally prepared, but I think the key component is knowing what your risk is. So on a horse, your risk might be falling off, or the horse stumbles and falls, or something like that. In the market, I can control my risk even better, because depending on the size of my position, I can control how much money is at risk. So it's very exciting. I love trading. Part of what I love about it is the excitement, but it's also because I know how much risk that I have.
Okay, all right. I think that's an interesting point. How do you know how much? Because like technically anything can happen.
Well,
Like we have all these economic issues, there's geopolitical issues, and everything going crazy. So how do you assess how much is actually a risk?
well, for instance, I've got a small biotech stock, and it's around $4, and I know that, even if the whole market falls apart, it's not probably going to go under 350. That's just a low risk position for me, so I don't worry about that. If I'm in something that's likely to move a lot, or that I'm afraid might move a lot, I would use options. So I would either be long the calls or long the puts, depending on what I think is about to happen. And then my risk would be limited to the amount of premium that I've paid. If I'm actually in stock, then and I'm worried about it, I lower my size. So I think that is something I've talked to Inner Circle members a bunch about, is that if you have a lot of anxiety about a trade and it's keeping you up at night, for sure, you need to be in less size. If you're worried that a loss could really damage your account and hurt your ability to trade because it eats up too much of your capital, a loss eats up too much of your capital, then you're in too much. You need to have a smaller position and take less risk.
Okay, all right. I think it's interesting, like the way you talk about these things, because it sounds like you feel like you have control over your destiny and you're not just being bounced around by whatever's happening, the Fed or
Definitely.
whatever's. So you feel like you are in control of your destiny.
I do. And I hate it when people say, oh, you gamble every day, don't you? And I say, well, I don't gamble. I trade things that I have an edge in. So, I feel like I'm pretty sure I know which way it's going to go. And if I don't, then I know how much loss I'm willing to take before I get out. So it doesn't feel like gambling at all to me.
Okay, so where does that edge come from?
Well, I mean, that's something that's always being developed for me. It came originally from studying chart patterns and understanding what patterns tend to do. And then on top of that, I got really good at reading a ticker, which is basically watching the prints that come through. So I watch where a stock is trading. Is it trading on the bid? Is it trading on the offer? Are there, big bids that are pushing the price up? When it drops back, does it drop back fast and hard, or does it just trickle down slowly? All these sorts of things tell me how much strength a stock has and what it's likely to do. And then what I've really learned a lot about in the last couple of years is market psychology, how news affects individual stocks. Yeah, I mean, those are the two basic things: market psychology and how the news affects things. And that has given me a whole new, just more things to put into the mix to help decide what I think will happen.
So how do you balance the sort of mechanical elements like the chart patterns, indicators, earnings, news with the human side? Because like there are days like today where like you could see the fear
Right.
on the tape, and you're also managing your own emotions, your own reactions to things. So how do you manage, like, I guess, what's technical and what's like instinctual?
Well, and I think I'm answering your question, but I mean, for me, I've been trading long enough now that I know, for instance, on a day like today, when I walk in and I have losses at the open, I know I can recover from that because I've been trading for quite a while. What was the other part of your question?
All right, no, I don't remember, but you, you said something interesting, that you can recover the losses. So
Yes.
I think I would guess 99% of people don't think like that. That like, and this goes back to this issue of, it seems like you feel like you are very much in control of
Mhm.
your destiny. So how do you know you can make it back? Is it just you've done it before?
Yeah, I think that's what it is. I've done it so many times before, um, that I know it might take me a while. I might go through a period where it's difficult and I struggle and I have to really cut down my risk and cut down my size and refocus, and maybe, even step back and not trade very much for a while until I'm back in the groove. But I know how to do that and how to really take my risk down. So, because I've done it before.
Uh, okay, so I've seen a lot of psychological studies that talk about how the pain of a loss is far more powerful than like the joy of winning. So a $1,000 loss is a lot more painful than like a $1,000 gain. But you have this optimism.
Yeah,
But I mean, for you personally, like, it seems like you would not subscribe to that.
I don't think I do. That's not how I feel about it. Those are equal to me. $1,000 loss to me just means I need to make $1,000. So then I start looking around for what can I trade that will make me $1,000.
Okay. All right. So I think that's a good spot to transition into. So do you have specific goals? This is something I've talked to other people about, but like, we polled our audience and just said, what is your goal? And across the board, unprompted. So this is not like multiple choice. We did not give people options. We said, what is your goal? Across the board, most popular goal, I want to make $10,000 a month across the board, the most popular goal. How do you feel about like specific dollar goals? Do you think they make any sense?
No, and I don't trade with any goals in mind. I mean, I would like to be positive every day, but even that's not realistic because everybody has bad days. Everybody makes mistakes. You're going to have some losing days. I'm going to have some losing days anyway. My goal each day coming in is to trade the best that I can. And so my days where I really feel good about my trading, I've caught a trend early, I've gotten out right as the momentum starts to fade, for instance, or I've shorted something, at just the ideal spot and covered just as the momentum fades on the downside. Those are the days I feel really, really good about. And it's not necessarily the days where I make a lot of money. So my goal is to trade well.
So for you, it's about doing the right things and you trust the money will come?
Yes, exactly.
Okay. All right. So how would you describe your trading style overall?
My trading style, well, it started off that I was a day trader. And so I never held things overnight. I scalped a lot, quick trades, in and out, in and out. That has changed. Oh, it's changed substantially in the last couple of years, partially because the market's a lot different than it was in the 90s, for sure. It's faster. And because I've been in the inner circle with David Prince, who's taught me some new things, and because I've been trading a bear market. So now I have all these different trading styles. So sometimes and some days when it's more choppy, I'll day trade and scalp. But I also have other trades usually at the same time that are long term. So it might be a swing for a few days, or it might even be a much longer term hold, like that little biotech I mentioned that I've been in for, I don't know, maybe a year or so. So I've got different styles to use in different situations. And I just try to decide what will work best for the situation that I'm in.
Okay, so you brought up a comparison to the 90s. We've seen a lot of people. I mean, I've met a lot of people that were traders in the 90s, made millions and millions of dollars, and then got wiped out early 2000s for whatever reason. So what's different about today versus back then?
Well, I mean, we used to be able to watch things on the TV, news come across the TV, and turn around and buy a stock based on the news or sell a stock based on the news and make money on it. But today, the algos and the computers are so fast that by the time we see news on TV, it's already done. The move has happened by the time we find out what the news is. So that's one thing. Another really kind of funny thing to look back and think about is that when I first started trading, it was not legal for me to enter my own orders. So I sat on the other side of a table from a registered broker, and I would call my orders out to her, and she would enter the order and she would tell me what I bought. So I'd, for instance, say, Terry, buy me 1,000 shares of Intel. And she'd say, okay, you bought it at 62. I mean, that's how slow it was.
Wait, all right. I think you need to explain that. Why was it not legal for you to enter your own orders?
I guess it was the SEC did not let individual investors without a license enter buy and sell orders. And so I had to have someone licensed enter the order for me. And so she literally sat across the table from me, and that we'd have 2 or 3 traders on a table, and we'd all be calling orders out to her, and she'd enter all our orders. The times were just so different.
So this was the good old days with decimals and
yes, quarters. We traded in quarters and eighths. Stocks moved in quarters and eighths. And all of our trading platforms were DOS based, so they were black and white, and you just had the information. You just had the market maker and the price and what price it traded at, and that was about it. There were no charts or anything.
Okay, did you like it more then, or do you like it?
Well, not really. I mean, at the time it was great. It was, the money was really great, and I loved it, but I don't know, times are different. You couldn't go back to that.
All right, so I think that's a good segue to, like, what do you love about trading?
Oh, I love that every single day that I walk in, it's a challenge. It's to me, I look at it as a strategy. What's going to move the most today? How will I take advantage of it? What is causing something to move? What do other market participants think? How's it going to affect other stocks in the sector? So all these things are going through my mind, and I'm trying to come up with a plan. And it's almost like a game. It's almost like a video game of outsmarting everybody else. It's kind of how I think of it, which maybe it's silly, but it's just my little game that I play, and it's fun.
Oh, so I mean, you have to have a competitive streak in you. Like, if you're competing at rodeo on these things, like, I mean, does it drive you to feel like you're you're good, or you are the best?
Well, I'm definitely not the best, and I've never felt like I was, but it is, I am driven to try to feel like I'm good at it. Yes, for sure. I mean, you're right about the competitive streak. I always want to try to be good at everything that I do, which is, again, sort of ridiculous, but that's just that. I guess that's just my personality. It's like, I want to be really good at it if I'm going to do it.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that like, the whole trading game, it attracts competitive people because it's definitely a mountain to climb. There's insane competition from other traders and banks and hedge funds and all
Right.
that stuff. So I think that's perfectly natural. And even, these days, like, surviving can feel like success.
Well, that's true. Yeah, but on the other hand, these days there's been so much opportunity. I mean, it's hasn't been easy, but the opportunity is there because things are moving. And so if you can focus in on the right stocks, there's money to be made every day.
Oh,
The worst thing would be a market that's just quiet, where nothing's really moving and it's just, there's no volatility at all. And we're getting moves. So I'm not complaining at all. Even today, it was really hard and I didn't have a good day, but I'm not complaining about the market.
okay. I think you might annoy some people in the audience that you're not. So I mean, do you find this environment, like, as crazy as it could be, like, do you like it? I mean, is it enjoyable just because there's so much excitement?
Um, well, it's enjoyable to me in that I'm trying to figure out how what the Fed says is going to affect the market. So this is all that strategy that I'm talking about. Like, when the pound starts to get stronger, is that going to bring the market back up? And when interest rates aren't rising so fast, will the market rip up quickly, or will we have a slow, steady increase? How will Nike and Micron's earnings be taken tonight? I haven't really looked to see. I guess Micron is only down a little bit. I'm an investor in AMD in the past few days, so I'm thinking AMD is going to put in at least a short-term bottom around 59 or 60, and I didn't want to see Micron just get demolished tonight because I was afraid it might hurt my AMD. AMD looks fine. So yeah, so all these things to me are just part of the whole game of figuring out what will happen next and what's going to make it happen.
Okay, so what are you doing differently in this environment versus last year versus 2020?
Oh, well, last year was like the free money year, right? SPACs were going crazy, and you could buy something, and if you had a loss in it, you just hold it long enough and it would come back up and you could get out flat or make a winning trade. And that was a hard adjustment for me the first few months of the year. Because we had gotten so used to just holding, and it didn't work. January, February, March, that did not work at all. So there was a big adjustment for me there. And then this year being in a bear market has been another big adjustment. But after March was over, it was a gradual adjustment, not quite so abrupt as January, February, and March. But shorter hold times, more shorting. It's different, takes different skills, but it's always a little bit of adjustment. Almost every day there's a little bit more adjustment, I think, for me.
Okay, all right. I'm glad you brought up shorting, because a lot of people are very uncomfortable shorting. It feels very unnatural to them, especially if you've been used to bull markets for
Right.
your whole career. To you, does shorting feel any different than going long?
No, in fact, I would prefer to be short because, well, probably because I've made more money short over my trading career. But I think in a lot of cases, that's because when things start to sell off, they can really go fast. Shorting has been harder this year than it has been in the past. I don't know if that's more people stepping in to buy or what. So it is harder than it used to be, but I love to be short. And as long as you either buy first and it goes up and you sell, or you sell first and it goes down and you buy. To me, it's the same thing in reverse.
Okay, so most people would think, the market's down this year, it's a mess. How could shorting be more difficult in a year like this?
Well, there have been many, many opportunities to short and make money. And I have to say, I've missed a lot of them because we had such a strong run up last year. And especially after watching things like GameStop and AMC just destroy the shorts. I was a little scared to step out there and really commit to being short very much. I was cautious and I missed a lot that way. But as the market's gotten weaker, I've gotten more comfortable, and I'm looking for things that haven't come down too much yet. So N phase is one of my favorite shorts right now. It's really close to support. And I think once it breaks that support level, I think it'll drop $20 or $30. But, I don't know if that'll be this week or next or some other time. So I'm playing short when I can, and that's that's what my focus is right now. But instead of being short a lot of things or even long a lot of things, I'm much more focused than I used to be. So I'll focus on 2 or 3 trades and have more size in those trades rather than being in like 10 things, because it gets too chaotic. It's too hard to watch.
Okay, so you're trading fewer positions bigger?
Fewer positions bigger. And then I'm actually trading around them. So for instance, one thing that we've done on AMD, we've been buying it the past week, and it started around 66 or 67. And so as AMD would dip down under 66, we would buy some. As it would go back up around 77, we would sell. It would go back down to 66, we would buy. And that probably happened 2 or 3 or 4 times this week, where we would buy and then would go back up and we would sell. And that is to build up some profits so that as AMD comes into this level I'm looking at the $59 to $60 level, I've got some profits built up. I can put on a position there and not be freaked out if it hits 57. I'll say, okay, I've got some money that I made on it. It's okay. It can go to 57. I'm still break even. Ideally, I think that in a few months, it's going to be much higher. So that's one way I've been trading this market.
Okay, so do you have like hard stops on your trades? Like, do you have like a specific uncle point where you just say, all right, I'm done? Or is it more fluid?
Sometimes I do. And I'm really inclined to have a hard stop if I get in something late. So if I know I'm chasing it and I want to limit my risk, then I'll say hard stop is, underneath the last support level, for instance. But if it's a trade like AMD that I think, this thing's going to be at $90 in a few months, I really, really want to stay in it, I don't have a hard stop. Obviously at some point if it really went against me, I would just have to say uncle and just get out. But along the way, I intend to keep generating some profits here and there so that I'm never exposed to too much risk.
Okay, I think it's really interesting because at the start of this, you said like your personality is defined as glass half full, and
Right.
and like you're always having this optimistic look at things. Like you said, if you start the day down, I can turn it around and be up. AMD might go down, but it might go to 90 in a few weeks. Do you think people can develop a more optimistic personality, or do you think that is you
Yes.
have it or you don't?
No, I think you can absolutely develop your personality to be more optimistic. I mean, it's really just about how you look at the world. So if you find yourself thinking negative thoughts and you just kind of, all you have to do is tweak them just a little bit, and you can start having a more positive outlook on all kinds of things. And it carries over, if you have a more positive outlook on your personal life, it kind of carries over into your trading life and vice versa. So it's the way I like to live. I seems like everybody else should want to be positive and positive, but maybe that's not everybody's cup of tea. That's okay too.
Okay, I mean, all right, so do you think like, I guess if people have are more pessimistic, I mean, do you think they should avoid trading altogether?
No, I don't think that's a reason to avoid trading. Uh, Anybody who's been trading for very long understands it's very psychological. So if pessimism works for you and you're not, it's not tripping you up and causing problems in your trading, have at it.
Okay, all right.
I just think that if you're finding that something about the way you're thinking is either distracting you from your trading or affecting your trading in a negative way, then figure out what you need to do to change it and work on changing it. I mean, that's kind of my mantra. Just figure out what you need to do and you can make the changes.
Okay, all right. So from a psychological perspective, because you said trading is very psychological, like what surprised you the most about trading? Like from a psychological perspective, what surprised you the most?
Gosh, I mean, I guess I have to say that it's just so intense all the time. Even on days when it's quiet, for me, it's really intense because I'm looking for a trade. I'm watching to see what's happening. And even though I sit here all day, by the end of the day, I'm tired. I mean, it's exhausting. And I haven't really done that much except press some buttons. So that's sort of counterintuitive, but I think that's the biggest thing to me is that, wow, it's a real mental workout.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense because like I've read that chess players
Oh yeah.
expend like a shocking number of like basically they're running a marathon while they're sitting in a chair because of all the mental processing that's going on like nonstop, and you're literally burning sugar trying to get so how do you unwind after a day of zaniness in the market?
I try to walk 5 miles every day. So my favorite thing to do is go walk somewhere really quiet where I can just think, whether it's about my trading or about something else I have going on. And I'll just think through, what happened or how I want to change it, all those things that I've already mentioned. I get a massage here and there, hang out with friends and just talk. A quiet cup of coffee on my porch, all those kinds of things that are fulfilling to me that I need. And if I don't have those, then I do start to kind of suffer and feel like I need to take a week off.
Okay, so the thing is it easy to find people to relate to, like because I feel like if somebody's not trading or if they don't understand the markets, it's really difficult for them to understand like what a trader is going to go through.
It is. And I kind of don't talk to my friends that don't trade. I don't talk to them much about trading because they don't really understand. And frankly, it's kind of boring to them what I do. So I've been really lucky in joining the Inner Circle because I have this group of what 150 or so traders, and I know a bunch of them, even though it's virtually, but I've talked to them enough that I'm comfortable picking up the phone and saying, hey, that was really tough today. What did you think? Or what do you think about natural gas prices? What do you think about oil prices? All those sorts of things that I'm really interested in, that they're interested in too. But my normal friends are not.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's something everybody in the audience should think about a little bit is community. We've heard from a lot of people saying, like, I don't know any other traders, so I have nobody to talk to about all of these things I'm going through, all these emotional ups and downs. So if you're feeling like that, community is definitely something.
Yeah, I think that's a really important something too. I mean, it really is important to be able to bounce ideas off of somebody and have somebody hold you accountable if that's what you need. And honestly, part of what I really, really enjoy about trading is some of the people in my room are funny. They joke around and makes me laugh during the day, and they ask me silly questions, and it's just lighthearted. Even though what we're doing is really serious, it really helps me to have a better day.
Okay, so you would say laughter
Yes,
is an important
it
part of
is
the equation.
me. Yeah, I think it's really important. And sometimes, sometimes when everybody's being quiet and there's not much going on, I'll just put on some music, because that also is a really nice thing to just listen to while I'm trading.
So what do you like to listen to?
You're going to laugh, but I mostly listen to country music, but I also listen to some just regular pop. And um, my kids kind of got me into a little bit of rap, and I listen to all kinds of things.
And like, so what makes you turn on the music?
Um,
Is it just like not much going on right now?
yeah, when it's not much going on and I just think, gosh, it's kind of quiet, and I'm not feeling that. I don't know. I just feel kind of blah. So I want to get something going and kind of improve my mood and wake me up a little bit. That's when I'll put on some music.
Okay, is there ever a point where you say, I shouldn't trade today, or I'm just not in it right now? Does that ever happen to you?
That really doesn't happen to me. I think what is so similar that would happen to me is I might say, wow, I'm making some really bad decisions today. I need to sit here and watch and figure out what's going on and stop pushing buttons. Like, don't make any trades, just watch and try to understand what's happening. And, clearly I'm doing something wrong.
Okay, all right. So I think that's really interesting because you seem like a very thoughtful, deliberate person. And I feel like everybody that's involved in trading or investing of any kind knows sometimes we do things we know we shouldn't do.
Yeah.
Um, how do you stop that?
Mhm. Well, I mean, I still do it. I'll think, ooh, I don't know if I should get in this trade, but I'm going to try it. And those are not the highest probability winners, I think. I think probably I tend to lose about half the time when I get in a trade like that. So, really, especially for a new trader, the most important thing is to protect your capital. You don't want to take big losses. You just can't afford to when you have a small account. So, I mean, it's important to be disciplined and take the very best trades, trade those, according to your plan, but don't just jump in and out of things, because that is a quick way to eat up your profits, or, create losses, and you just can't do that. But yet, if you can consistently every day or almost every day have some profit, it builds up in a hurry.
Okay, so could you kind of talk us through your process on one of your recent trades? Like, what led to the decision of hitting the buy button?
Okay, I can talk you through this end phase trade that I'm in. I actually talked about it on Twitter Spaces with TrendSpider on Tuesday night, and I gave them the setup. And I said, here, let me pull it up so I get the prices right. So solar stocks have had this nice run up with the Inflation Reduction Act, and that was at the end of July. They really started to move up. And so end phase went up, and then it kind of created this sideways base for what, 2 months, about 2 months. And it started to kind of look like it's making a top and rolling over to go back down. And I knew I wanted to be in it, but it's really volatile. And so I don't want to be in it at a low price. I want to be in it as close as I can, like the highest price that I can get in is where I want to short. So I was watching the 8 and 21-day moving averages and saying to the people on Twitter Spaces that my ideal situation is for the market to run up and end phase to run up. And I will short close to the 8 and 21-day moving averages. And then, you know, as it comes back down, I'll take some profit. And then we've got a shelf at $271 approximately, a support level. And once it gets through that, watch out below, because I think it's coming way down. Excuse me. And so I did not get in the trade yesterday because yesterday felt like the market was going to continue to the upside, and I thought I'd have one more shot to get in a little bit higher, and I missed that shot to get in higher. So I ended up getting in today. I am short end phase. I'm holding it overnight. I hope that, you know, I hope it doesn't move back up too much, because I think eventually it will go down probably to that 100-day moving average, which is right below $240. So it's at 277 now. I think it's very likely to be at 240 in the next couple of weeks.
Okay, so how important is it for you to have like a full plan for each trade, or at least like an expectation of how things can go?
Well, that would be what I would recommend, especially for a beginning trader, is to have a plan. Like I want to get in at this point. I expect it to go to that point. Know where your stop is, which tells you how much risk you're taking, and know if it's a day trade or a swing trade. All those things are recommended to plan out ahead of time. I have to say, my background is day trading, and I learned to identify something in about, you know, a few seconds. I can usually decide if I want to be in or not, and I haven't always thought through that plan, but I have years of doing this, so I don't always do it, is what I'm saying. What I'm saying is I'm not always as careful as I should be if I were a new trader. Does that make sense?
Yeah. All right. Well, so it seems like, and I think this is probably true of any field or craft, like the longer you do it, the longer you just know
Right.
when things are right. So like, to what extent are you on autopilot where it's, you see a chart and you just know?
Oh, I mean, that happens to me all the time. That I look at a chart and I think, ooh, I think I like this. And then I oftentimes will step back and evaluate, okay, what's the spread? How much has it moved? You know, what's the overall market doing? Is the overall market going to help me and go the same direction that I want this trade to go? But I get that feeling pretty much instantly when I pull up a chart that, oh, I like it or I don't like it. You can convince me otherwise if I don't like something, you know, to give me enough information, and I might say, oh, I should look at that. But it's just so many years of having to make really fast decisions that I do it very quickly.
Okay, so what advice do you have for people that want to get to that point where they can like just make the decision so they can also just know?
My advice would be protect your capital, plan your trades out. If you are going through a spell where you're losing, you cut your size down, you only focus on the best trades, because the goal really is just to keep building up capital. And as you do more and more trades that are successful, you gain that confidence, you gain that awareness and that knowledge. And there's really no shortcut. I mean, it's like pretty much anything else. You just have to do it a lot. And you get better and better the more you do it.
Okay, I think that's a good point, because it seems like people are always looking for the magic indicator or trend line or formula
Yes,
for success that's basically gonna do all the work for them. But
exactly. People always seem to want an indicator that tells them when to get in and get out. And I say, well, an indicator helps, I guess, but they don't work all the time. And an indicator can't possibly take in all the information that your brain can, about the news and about the overall market and all these other things that go into making a decision. So, getting a feel for it yourself is the ultimate trading tool, I think.
okay, but I mean, there is a tricky balance, because like you can't run out of money before
That's right.
it's like you're in a race. It's like, either do I know what I'm doing by the time I run out of money? So I mean, like, should new people's focus be not losing?
Well, no. Um, if someone is trading and they need to make money, that's not a good position to be in, because the stress level is already high. And I'm saying this because I've done it. I went through a divorce and I thought, oh, I'll start trading again and make some money. And I needed to make money and it did not work. I stopped myself out. So you need to have enough of a cushion that you're relaxed and that you can think clearly. And gosh, that's another part of the psychology of trading. There's just so much that goes into it.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's the infamous rap lyrics, "Scared money don't make money."
There you go. That's
And,
it.
and I think it's true in life. Um,
It is.
Desperation repulses money from you. Like, money runs away from you when you're desperate.
Well, people run away from you when you're desperate too, right?
I think it's like, universally, desperation is the most unattractive human quality.
Yeah,
You could be a horrible person, but people might think you're entertaining or funny. But if you're desperate, nobody wants to be around you. Okay,
exactly.
all right. So then I think this brings us on to a good point. Like, if you have to dig yourself out of a hole, like, how do you shake the feeling of desperation?
Well, I
Or
mean, hopefully
can you? Is it possible?
it is. Hopefully, anyone who's starting off trading has another source of income or a spouse that makes some money or something to give them a little cushion, or maybe they live with their parents, whatever it is. And really the only way to dig yourself out of a hole is slowly and bit by bit. So you have to just keep accumulating small wins. And that probably means cutting your size down and taking low risk trades, but only the best setups. And that's
Okay.
really the only way to do it, I think.
Okay. All right. So when you're entering trades, um, are you thinking of the size of the payoff? Because I've met some people who say, I just try to hit singles over and over again, and then some of them turn out bigger. Some people always are going for home runs. So where are you on that spectrum? Or do you even think about it at all?
I do think about it. I think, for instance, on days like today where it's choppy, and this is where I made a mistake that I told you about earlier, I should have been continually taking my profits. And I thought maybe we'd continue to drift down, and I didn't, but that was a mistake for me today. But different days are different. One of these days we're going to turn and move back up, and that'll be a day to hold. And I don't know when that day is. I thought maybe it was yesterday. I mean, it worked fine yesterday, but there was no follow through. So, I really adjust a lot depending on the day and the market and the stock. And I am looking for a big move in this end phase that I mentioned, but as it goes my way, I will keep covering some of my short position so that if we have a bounce back up of $6 or $8 or $10, I can reshort, or, or get out for a smaller winner on whatever's remaining, because you just never really know. I can suspect where it's going and I might be right, but I still am likely to take part of the trade-off as it goes my way, just to make sure I have a winner.
Okay, so you never, so there's never a point where you really, I guess, go like really all in for everything? Like, does that ever happen?
I'm trying to think. We had a new core trade the other day, and I'm just going to pull it up here so I can talk to you about it. Oops. And David, we saw some news on Nucor, and David made the comment that it was going back to 100, and I think it was at like 135 or 135-ish when he said that. And usually if David predicts something like that, and so David's another moderator in my trading room. He's, eerily accurate with his predictions. So when he said that, yeah, I got short and I just held on. And I took it from, I think I got short at 127 and I got out about 107 was the last. So, it was a $20 trade, $19 or $20 winner. And that's one that I really felt like it was going where he said it was going. So I held most of it the whole way. If that gives you any idea, I don't always start covering shares, but I think I did cover some like 115, and then it went back up to 120 and I shorted again, and then it went back down under 110 and I started to cover. And then I thought, I don't know if it's really going to get to 100. I'm pretty happy with this 107. I'll just take it all. And I got out of the trade. And it did end up going to like 103, it looks like.
Okay, all right. So when you do have the sort of, actually, rather, when a trade is done, is it like fully behind you? Do you Monday morning quarterback yourself at all?
Sometimes. If I get out of something and it just keeps going and I could have made so much more money, it is really frustrating, I will admit. And it happens all the time. I mean, you just never catch the top and the bottom and do it perfectly, occasionally, but there are times that we get out of things, and like maybe a Tesla trade and it goes another $40 or $50, and it's frustrating, but that's part of the job. So I just be frustrated for a few minutes and go on.
Okay. I think, I'm glad you're admitting these things, because I feel like there's so many traders that pretend to be these like human algos, like they're these perfectly robotic people. Oh, here, I buy here and I sell there and I don't think about it. So how long do those feelings stay with you?
Not that long, honestly. And I don't ruminate about it because it doesn't help me trade. So I'm looking for what helps me find the next trade that's a winner. And to ruminate about something that I just messed up on really is not very helpful. It's not, it's not constructive. So I'll think about it and I'll go back and look at it and think, oh, darn, it just keeps going and I'm not in it. But then I set that thought aside and focus on, where's the next trade? So I move quickly to the next thing.
Okay. That's good. So like, what keeps you doing this? It's like, it's obvious, like obviously trading is a strange way to make a living.
It is.
So like, what keeps you in this game?
So what really keeps me in the game is that I just keep learning. It's always a challenge for me. And I do have to say that when I joined the Inner Circle as a moderator, that was one of the scariest things I've ever done, because I was taking my trading and putting it out there to the public and saying, this is what I'm buying, this is what I'm selling. And believe me, it is not fun to get a bunch of people in a trade that doesn't work. It's a bad feeling. And that happens sometimes. But I also had this fear of public speaking. And so when I was offered the job, I thought, oh my gosh, I'm terrified of doing this, which basically means that I have to take the job because I have to get over this irrational fear. And for the first 6 months, I had sweaty palms and racing heartbeat every time I got on the microphone. And so I've grown a lot. But, that to me, that's personal growth. And I'm proud of myself because I am now comfortable on the microphone. I can talk to you in front of all these people and not be having, a meltdown that I'm so nervous. And that wouldn't have happened a couple years ago. So just keep growing, keep challenging myself. That's what I love about it in all different areas.
Okay, all right. Because I think this ties back to rodeos, jumping out of planes, trading, public speaking,
Yes.
sharing your ideas. These are all things where you are one small step away from disaster.
Well, I don't know about that.
No, reality, they are.
Okay.
What I'm saying is, these are high stakes things.
True.
And I mean, like, is that part of the appeal of trading for you? Is that like you're kind of, you're stepping out on a ledge, taking risks, smart risks, hopefully, but like, do you like, how much do just the sheer stakes of it all apply to you? I mean, or at least excite you about trading?
I think that's very perceptive of you because I think you're absolutely right. It's something that I love about trading, that it's high stakes. It forces me to be really focused and to make sure I do it well, because if I don't do it well, I'm going to lose a lot of money. So now that you've mentioned that, I definitely see parallels in my life. There's something else I don't even know if you know this about me, but one year when my kids were little, I pulled my kids out of school and traveled for a year and went all around the world. And I guess I hadn't really thought of it, but that's kind of a high stakes thing as well. And I loved it. I mean, I loved the planning and the organizing and the excitement of it and all that. And it's just, I'm drawn to those sorts of things.
Well, I mean, life can get, for some people, I mean, I don't think everybody's the same, but I feel like life can get really boring if you don't have a hill to climb. Like if you don't have if you don't have a fight in front of you.
I agree.
It can get a little stale.
Yeah. I'm with you on that one. So I'm always looking for, another thing to do or a challenge, something to learn. So yeah, it makes life fun to me.
Yeah, there's something, nothing makes you feel alive like impending disaster, like, like of being on the edge of disaster. And like, I mean that in an entirely positive way.
So what I'm doing right now, the new thing that I'm learning now is how to swing dance. And it's kind of funny because I guess the disaster there would be, stepping on my partner's feet or something, or making a fool of myself. But, I've never learned it. So here I go.
That's great.
It's fun.
It's like, because I think everybody in the audience can see that, like, you have this long list of life adventures on this, like, this very unconventional path. Rodeo, skydiving, trading, going on an around the world trip with the kids. All interesting, exciting stuff.
It's been quite a journey. Yeah, hopefully it keeps going for a long time.
Okay, all right. So I think we're going to close out soon, but let's talk about, so the whole, again, we're talking about like parallels between things like rodeos, skydiving, trading, like how do they compare in terms of like, let's just talk about in terms of like pure enjoyment and excitement and whatever it does for your soul. Like how do they compare?
I think the thing that comes to mind is that they're all exhilarating once you're done. You get onto the ground after a skydive and it's like, that was the most amazing thing I've ever done. Same thing with a barrel race or something that goes really well. It's just so satisfying and exciting and fulfilling. And after a good day of trading, I feel the same way. I mean, I haven't been as physical as the other two things, but it's still mentally the same feeling of achievement. That's what I would say. It's a feeling of achievement of doing something really hard and doing it well.
Okay. All right. All right. So before we close out, let's talk about Inner Circle just a little bit.
Okay.
So how has being an Inner Circle moderator impacted your trading?
Well, interestingly, people would ask me, why did you get in that? Or how did you know that that was a buy? And at first I thought, well, I don't know how I knew that. And so I had to really step back and think about, what am I looking at that tells me to get into this trade, so that I could communicate it to everybody else. And still, even now, I have trouble with that sometimes, because it's just so automatic that I'm not always sure what I'm looking at. So that's been a really interesting change for me. I've also had to really focus on what is the highest probability trade, because I don't want to give the chat room trades that aren't high probability. I don't want them to lose money. I want them to make money. So I give them the best trades. Ones I'm not sure about, I don't share. What else? It's made me more aware of, what is hard for other people. Sizing is something really hard for other people. I see somebody in the chat too asked about, do I have a stop loss that I use every day? And I don't. Some people do. I trade the best that I can trade, and if the loss is bigger or smaller, that's just part of my day. But I have an account that can handle that too, so I don't have to have a strict stop loss, a dollar amount where I quit trading for the day. All these things have just made me much more aware of what I'm doing and why. That's what the moderating has helped me with. Okay.
I think we're going to close out in just a minute. For some reason, I am restricted from screen sharing. But guys, I posted in the chat the link for Inner Circle. It's t3live.com/IC if you want to trade with Kira. You can also email info@t3live.com to contact our team if you're interested, if you have questions or anything. But I want to close out with, I think, what we've really learned from Kira, which is, I think the most important thing is being positive, because being miserable, no matter what you're doing in life, being miserable is going to hold you back. And also, I think just chase adventure, do things that excite you.
Mm-hmm.
So Kira, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Michael.
I hope you will join us again one day soon.
I would love to. And thanks to everybody who joined and listened.
Okay, thanks everybody. Again, t3live.com/IC if you want to work with Kira. Good night, everyone. Thanks for joining us.